Hello, you're watching TVP World, and this is World Talks. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. It's been a pivotal week for Ukraine, from heavy fighting near Pokrovsk to controversy over the evolving U.S.-Ukraine peace plan and the fallout from the Witkoff leak. And now, a new development in Kiev. Anti-corruption investigators have searched the offices of President Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, as part of a major probe into alleged corruption at Energoatom. Now, to discuss the latest, we're joined by Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik of the Voice Party. Good to have you back on TVP World, Kira.
Good morning, Sasha, and thank you so much for having me.
So I'd like to start with the most recent developments of Nabo and Sabo, these anti-corruption investigators that are currently now in the government quarter. Reports are saying that also includes the chief of staff, Yermak, of President Zelensky. I mean, this comes at such a precarious time for Ukraine. Why do you think this increased scrutiny and pressure now? And what would that do and leverage, if anything, and impact negotiations for Ukraine?
The timing for all of this is indeed suspicious, because we have heard about the investigations in the Energoatom corruption for a while right now. And these searches at the office of president are also showing that president has missed a crucial moment to at least suspend his chief of staff for a time of the investigation. This is what we in Parliament were demanding last week and the week before that, because Ukraine cannot sacrifice our process of negotiation, cannot sacrifice the trust of our partners just because there are questions to the chief of president's office. Let me explain you something, that according to Ukrainian constitution, President's office is only responsible on serving president on organizational matters. It doesn't have any political influence, or at least it's not supposed to have. It shouldn't appoint ministers and take them down. It shouldn't be involved into general politics. However, what we have seen over the years, that president's office basically replaced the government, replaced the parliament, and of course, this is has a huge impact on how Ukraine's politics works and how Ukraine's spending is working. And this is why right now all eyes are on President Zelensky and his next move. Because if we want to keep the trust of our partners, if we want to be able to say that President didn't know anything about what was going on, if we want to show the United States that Ukraine is a democratic country where the institutions actually work, we should act as if it was a suspicion to any other official when this suspicion arises, this official is usually suspended, and then things are going on and on. We have seen President appointing Andriy Yermak to be a lead of negotiation group. However, this is the responsibility of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, correct? And so, again, it shows you how the unofficial powers are replacing official powers in Ukraine. And I strongly do not believe that this should be a way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you said that Zelensky missed a crucial moment in all this. You've just given us also the layout of the concern that you, as a member of the parliament in Ukraine, have. So what are President Zelensky's options? What would be now, in your mind, credible for him to do? How does he get out of this? What signals can he now make to rebuild that trust?
So the worst thing that he can do is to pretend that nothing has happened and to accuse our partners or to accuse the anti-corruption organs in choosing the wrong time for this and blaming them for not standing with Ukraine. However, knowing President's actions, this is the suspicion that he may act like that. But this is, again, the worst way of going right now. The best way that he can go, he can suspend the head of his office he can agree to restart the coalition in Verkhovna Rada, appoint a new government, explain to our partners that anti-corruption organs are working properly in Ukraine and working independently. This is why first time in Ukraine's history they were able to investigate a person as high as chief of president's office and reappoint the head of the delegation and continue standing with Ukraine's national interest. However, we see that the decision was not made when it was the appropriate time. And right now, we didn't hear from President, though the searches happened just this morning. It will be really unfortunate if President will try to sacrifice all the work that has been done by all Ukrainians to be where we are right now, to keep some of his friends out of this investigation.
Mm-hmm. We know that Steve Witkoff is being sent to Moscow. The Kremlin's now confirmed that. That's due to take place next week. Do you think, if anything, now, I mean, we've passed this so-called deadline that Trump had said earlier in the week. It's all malleable. But with all the things that have happened, with the Witkoff leak, now with this new amount of pressure on Zelenskyy, what do you think is to be expected from that conversation between Putin and Witkoff next week?
So let's make it very clear. We do not have a deal at the table that we can sign or a deal that Russia has agreed to. We are in negotiations, and these negotiations are not different from any other negotiations that have been there since President Trump has come to the office. And he set a deadline. It was obviously a deadline that nobody can meet. And he didn't express the answer to the most important question. Has Russia agreed to that? Like, is this something that he will be able to pressure Russia into? So right now, when there is no deadline and it doesn't seem like a deal that is discussed enough to be signed or at least considered to be signed, it's just like a regular negotiation process. So we should take off the pressure from it, wait at what is happening until Mr. Witkoff is coming back from Russia and see what he has to say. However, again, let's look at it really with open heart. What did change for the last 2 weeks? The answer here on the ground is nothing. Russia keeps attacking us, so they didn't agree to any sort of ceasefire. There has been many scandals with Witkoff's recordings, with President Trump saying, do this or else, etc., etc. It has already have happened many times. I can tell you, Sasha, it was the same with the rare earth minerals deal, when the first deal was unacceptable, and then after a couple of negotiations, it was really good for Ukraine and US, and we were able to sign it and ratify. So if you look at what is happening, all the scandals all together, there are many stakeholders that are trying to publicly pressure each other into something. It's also important to remember that when someone is trying to pressure President of Ukraine into ceding some territories, he just doesn't have the powers to do that. So even if President Zelenskyy agrees to everything that was in this 28-point plan, he cannot sign it because it's not in president's powers according to Ukraine's constitution. The deal like that should be ratified in Ukraine's parliament, and beforehand there should be a referendum. And for referendum, there should be end of the war. So I think we need to exhale and let all of the authorities do their part. We need to look in the eye to the President Zelenskyy and hope that he will do the right thing. And we need to wait until the United States are back from the Thanksgiving holidays, and we think that the negotiations will continue.
Okay. So as what I hear there is that we have to still remain patient. This is an ongoing process like any negotiation. It has been these last days a truly frenetic pace in terms of negotiations and calls. But there's also been the kinetic element on the battlefield. And I want to ask you about that. We've heard and seen more reports of fierce fighting on the front lines. We know the situation in Pokrovsk is not looking good at the moment, and it's one of those battleground areas. What do you make of the perception that some might be saying that Ukraine is losing ground, is losing the momentum here? Is that accurate, or is that a misconception?
Sasha, I'm not a military commander and not a military reporter to tell you objectively what's happening. We only are as good as the information that we are having, and this information is not positive for Ukraine. That is true. And it's very hard at the battlefield. However, what is happening at the battlefield contradicts to what is everybody saying, that the negotiations are happening and Russia is ready for peace. From what their actions are, we think that they will continue the offense until spring hits, and then there would be a better time for them for negotiation and better time for them to try to push for whatever they want. This is why we were really surprised and skeptical when before winter President Trump said that he thinks that there is a possibility to agree to something. Right now it seems that the fighting will continue. The question is at which point Russia will be at the beginning of spring, and obviously they will try to use all of their resources to show to President Trump and to the whole world what they were saying, that they can take everything by force. However, if you look at the maps in 2023 and right now, things really didn't change much. And so for Russia to keep saying that they can take Donetsk region by force is still an over-exaggeration.
Okay, so it is a precarious time indeed for Ukraine. Must remain cautious, but hopefully optimistic that there will be negotiations that will carry on. Look, we'll cover it more as it develops. Always a pleasure. Kira Rudik there. Thank you so much again for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on World Talks. But stay tuned. There's much more right here on TVP World, so don't go away. Goodbye.